I missed my daughter's call. During an important meeting, I thought it was nothing urgent, but what happened in the next few hours made me realize some calls don't come twice. Honestly, I used to think I had my priorities straight. Work first, stability first, provide for the family. That's what a good father does, right? At least, that's what I kept telling myself. It was a normal Tuesday, the kind that starts early and never really slows down. I had a big meeting that morning, the kind where everyone's watching, waiting for you to prove you deserve your position. My phone was on silent, face down on the table. I remember glancing at it once. Emily calling? My daughter. I frowned for a second. It wasn't like her to call me during school hours. For a moment, I thought about stepping out, but then someone asked me a question, and just like that, I ignored it. I'll call her back later, I told myself. The meeting went on. 40 minutes, maybe an hour. When it finally ended, I picked up my phone. 3 missed calls, all from Emily, and 1 message. Dad, please call me when you see this. Something about that message didn't feel right. Not urgent, but not normal either. I called back immediately. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. Now I was starting to feel uneasy. I texted her. Everything okay? No reply. I told myself I was overthinking. Kids do this sometimes. They call, then forget. But Emily wasn't like that. She was quiet, reserved, not the type to spam calls unless something mattered. I couldn't focus on work anymore, so I left early, drove straight home. When I opened the front door, the house was quiet, too quiet. Her school bag was on the floor, shoes by the door. She was home. Emily, I called out. No answer. My chest tightened. I walked down the hallway, each step feeling heavier than the last. Her room door was slightly open. I pushed it gently. She was sitting on the floor, back against the bed, phone in her hand. Emily? I said again, softer this time. She looked up. Her eyes were red. That's when everything inside me dropped. What happened? I asked, walking toward her. She didn't answer immediately, just stared at me for a second, like she was deciding something. Then she said quietly, I didn't think you'd come. That sentence, it hit harder than anything else could have. I called you, she continued. 3 times. I know, I said quickly. I was in a meeting. I know, she interrupted. Not angry, just tired. I just needed to hear your voice, she said. I sat down next to her, slowly. Why? I asked. She hesitated, then handed me her phone. It was a message from someone I didn't recognize, but the words were enough. You don't belong here. Everyone thinks you're weird. Just stop trying. There were more, way more. My hands tightened around the phone. Who sent this? She shrugged. Does it matter? I didn't know what to say, because she was right. It didn't. What matters is, she continued, I didn't want to go back tomorrow. That sentence made everything clear. This wasn't just a bad day. This had been building up for a while. I called you because... She paused, looking down. I didn't know who else to call, and I missed it. I felt something break inside me. Not loudly, but deeply. I'm here now, I said. She nodded, but didn't smile. I just needed you earlier, she replied. That silence after that, I don't think I'll ever forget it. We sat there for a while. No talking, just being there. That night I stayed with her. No phone, no work, just listening, really listening. The next day I took time off, met her school counselor, handled things properly, made sure she wasn't dealing with it alone anymore. But the truth is, that one missed call, it stayed with me. Because it wasn't just a call, it was a moment she chose me, and I wasn't there. I still think about that day sometimes, not with guilt, but with awareness. Because as parents, we think we have time. We think later is always an option, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes someone just needs you in that exact moment. So yeah, now when my phone rings, especially her name, I pick up, no matter what. What would you have done in my place? That night didn't end the way I expected. I thought sitting with Emily, listening to her, being present, would somehow fix things. But real life doesn't work like that. She barely slept. I could tell. Every time I passed by her room, the light was still on. At one point around 2 a.m., I knocked softly. Can't sleep? I asked. She shook her head. I didn't say anything, just sat next to her for a while. That silence again, but this time it felt different. Not empty, heavy. The next morning, I called in sick, first time in years. My boss didn't sound happy, but honestly, I didn't care. Some things just matter more, and I was starting to understand that a little too late. Emily didn't want to go to school. She didn't even argue about it, just quietly said, I don't want to. No excuses, no drama. That scared me more than anything. Okay, I said, you don't have to go today. She looked at me, almost surprised, like she expected me to force her. Maybe I would have a week ago. We had breakfast together. Well, I tried to. She just pushed food around her plate. Emily, I said carefully, how long has this been happening? She didn't answer right away, just kept staring at the table. A while, she said finally. That phrase again, a while. It always sounds small, but it never is. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. She looked up this time, and her answer hit me straight. I didn't think you'd have time. I didn't know what to say, because she wasn't wrong. I would have made time, I said. But even as I said it, it didn't sound convincing. She didn't argue. She just nodded slightly. That quiet kind of agreement that says, I hear you, but I don't believe you. Later that day, I contacted the school, set up a meeting with the counselor. I wanted to handle this properly, fix it, control it, like I do with everything else in life. But when we got there, I realized this wasn't something you just handle. The counselor, Mrs. Reynolds, was calm, patient. She spoke to Emily first alone. I waited outside. And those 20 minutes felt longer than any meeting I've ever sat through. When Emily came out, she didn't look better, but she didn't look worse either. Just tired. Then it was my turn. Mrs. Reynolds looked at me in a way that made me slightly uncomfortable. Not judgmental, just aware. She's been dealing with this for months, she said. Months. I felt that word settle in my chest. Heavy. Why wasn't I informed? I asked. We tried reaching out, she replied gently. But Emily asked us not to. I frowned. Why? She paused, then said something I didn't expect. She didn't want to make things harder for you. That one stayed. Because while I was busy building a life for her, she was trying not to be a burden in it. I sat there not knowing what to say. She needs support, Mrs. Reynolds continued, not just solutions. That sentence stuck with me, because I realized I had been trying to fix everything, instead of just being there. When we got home, Emily went straight to her room again. No phone, no TV, just silence. I stood in the hallway for a minute, then knocked. Yeah, she said softly. Can I come in? A pause. Then, okay. I sat on the edge of her bed, didn't say anything at first, didn't ask questions, just stayed. After a while, she spoke. Are you mad? She asked. That caught me off guard. Mad? Why would I be mad? She shrugged. Because I didn't tell you earlier. I shook my head. No, I'm mad at myself. She looked at me. Really looked this time. For what? She asked. For not noticing, I said quietly. Silence again, but softer this time. I thought if I just ignored them, it would stop, she said. That's not how it works, I replied gently. I know that now, she said. There was something in her voice, not just sadness, understanding, the kind that comes from dealing with something alone for too long. I should have picked up your call, I said. She didn't respond immediately. Then she said something simple, but it meant everything. You're here now. And for the first time since yesterday, that felt like it mattered. That evening, we ordered food, sat on the couch, watched something random, didn't really pay attention to it, but it was normal, or at least close to it. And I realized something. Fixing things doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in small ones. Sitting together, listening, showing up. The next few days weren't perfect. There were still quiet moments, still hesitation, still things unsaid, but there was also something new, effort from both of us. And maybe that's where change really starts, not in big promises, but in small, consistent choices, like answering a call or just being there when it matters. The next week felt different, not in a dramatic way. Nothing magically fixed overnight, but there was a shift. Small, quiet, but real. Emily still didn't want to go back to school. And this time, I didn't push her. A few months ago, I would have said something like, you can't avoid things forever. But now I understood something I didn't before. She wasn't avoiding it. She was overwhelmed by it. We sat together one morning, both of us holding coffee, hers more milk than coffee, the way she liked it. So what do you want to do? I asked. She shrugged. I don't know. That was honest. And honestly, I preferred that over fake I'm fine answers. I can talk to the school again, I said. We can figure something out. Different classes, different timing, and whatever helps. She nodded slowly. Then after a pause, she said something I didn't expect. Can you come with me? I looked at her. Of course, I said without thinking. That was the first real step. The next day we went together. Not as a problem to solve, but as something to face. Together. Walking into that building felt strange. I hadn't been inside her school in years. Everything looked smaller than I imagined, or maybe I just felt older. Emily stayed close to me, not in a dramatic way, just close enough, and that alone told me how much she needed support. We met Mrs. Reynolds again, talked through options. There were suggestions, changing seating arrangements, monitoring certain students, giving Emily space if she felt overwhelmed. It all sounded helpful, but I could tell Emily was still unsure. On the way back home, she was quiet again. I didn't interrupt. I was learning. After a few minutes, she said softly, what if it doesn't stop? That question. It wasn't about school. It was about fear. I thought for a second before answering, then said honestly, then we deal with it together. She looked at me, not fully convinced, but a little less alone. That night, something unexpected happened. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Work. A week ago, I would have picked up instantly. No hesitation, no second thought. But this time, I looked at Emily. She was sitting across from me, scrolling quietly, but I could tell she was watching me from the corner of her eye, waiting. Not for the call, for my choice. I let it ring. Then I flipped the phone over. "I'll call them later," I said. She didn't smile, didn't react much, but I saw it. That small shift in her expression, relief. And that moment, it mattered more than any meeting I'd ever attended. Over the next few days, things slowly started improving. Not perfect, but better. Emily went back to school, half days at first. I dropped her off, picked her up, stayed available, and for the first time in years, I wasn't just providing for her, I was present. Then one afternoon, something happened that I didn't expect. She called me. Middle of the day, my phone buzzed on my desk. "Emily calling?" I froze for a second, not because I was busy, but because I remembered. That last time, that missed call. I picked up instantly. "Hey, Em?" A small pause. Then, "Hi." Her voice sounded normal. Calm. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. "I just wanted to tell you something." I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah?" "I answered a question in class today." I smiled without realizing it. "That's great." "Yeah," she said quietly. It wasn't a big deal, but it felt like one. I understood. "Completely. I'm proud of you," I said. Another pause. Then she said something simple, but this time, it didn't hurt. "Thanks for picking up." That moment stayed with me. Because it wasn't just about answering the phone. It was about showing up, consistently. Not when it's convenient, but when it matters. That evening, I came home earlier than usual. We had dinner together, talked. Really talked, not about problems. Just life. And for the first time in a long time, it felt normal. Not perfect, but real. And honestly, that's better. Because real means you're actually there. And I finally was. Things didn't fall apart again, but they didn't magically stay perfect either. That's the part no one really talks about. A few days after Emily started going back to school, I noticed something small, but it didn't feel small. She stopped calling me during the day. At first, I told myself it was a good sign. Maybe she was feeling better, more independent, less anxious. That's what I wanted, right? But then one afternoon, I got home early, and I heard her talking in her room, not laughing, not normal conversation, arguing. I paused outside the door, not trying to listen, but I couldn't ignore it either. I said, "Stop," she said. Her voice was low, controlled, but shaky. Silence. Then again, "Just leave me alone." My chest tightened. I knocked. "Emily?" The room went quiet instantly. "Too quiet." "Yeah?" she replied, like nothing had happened. "Can I come in?" A pause. Then, 1 second. That 1 second felt longer than it should have. When I walked in, she was sitting on her bed, phone face down, expression neutral, too neutral. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said quickly, too quickly. I didn't push, not right away. I remembered what Mrs. Reynolds said. She needs support, not pressure. So I just sat down, same as before. After a minute, I said quietly, "You don't have to handle everything alone." She didn't respond, but she didn't shut down either. That was progress. "I heard you talking," I added gently. She looked away. "It's nothing," she said. That word again, nothing. I waited, didn't argue, didn't correct her. And eventually, she sighed. "It's the same girl," she said. My jaw tightened. "From before?" She nodded. "What did she say this time?" I asked. She hesitated, then picked up her phone, unlocked it, and handed it to me. Different messages this time, different tone, but the same intent. "Thought you were done embarrassing yourself. Running to your dad now? Pathetic." I felt anger rise. Real anger this time, but I controlled it. "Because this wasn't about me." "Did you reply?" I asked. She shook her head. "Good," I said. "I didn't want to make it worse," she added quietly. I nodded. "You didn't." There was a moment of silence. Then she said something that surprised me. "I almost called you." I looked at her. "Why didn't you?" I asked. She shrugged slightly. "I didn't want to bother you again." That sentence, it hit differently this time, because now I understood something clearly. It wasn't just about one missed call. It changed how she saw me. And rebuilding that was going to take time. I leaned forward slightly. "Emily, you're never bothering me." She didn't respond, but she listened. "If you call me," I continued, "I'm picking up." She looked at me, like she was measuring that promise. Then she asked, "What if you're busy?" I didn't hesitate this time. "Then I'll still pick up." That was new. Even for me, and I meant it. That evening, I made a decision. Not a big announcement, not something dramatic, just a change. I adjusted my schedule, moved meetings, turned off unnecessary notifications, made space, not just physically, mentally too. Because being available available isn't just about time. It's about attention. The next day, something happened again. My phone rang. Emily, middle of the day, no hesitation this time. I picked up immediately. Hey, her voice sounded unsure. Hi, are you busy? No, I said. What's up? A small pause. Nothing big, she said. I just wanted to hear your voice. That moment felt familiar, but this time I didn't miss it. We talked for a minute about nothing important. School, lunch, random stuff. But it wasn't about the topic. It was about the connection. And when the call ended, I realized something. Trust doesn't come back in one big moment. It comes back in small ones. Call by call, choice by choice. And maybe that's how you fix something you almost lost. The calls became a routine after that. Not frequent, not forced, just natural. Sometimes she'd call to ask something small. Sometimes just to say she got through the day. And every single time, I picked up. But even with that, I knew something wasn't fully fixed yet. You can feel it, that slight distance, that hesitation before someone opens up. One evening, I noticed it again. We were having dinner. She was quieter than usual. Not upset, just distant. You okay? I asked. Yeah, she said. I didn't believe it, but I didn't push either. Later that night, I was sitting in the living room when I heard the front door open. I checked the time. 9:47 p.m. That was strange. Emily doesn't go out at night. I stood up and walked toward the hallway. She stepped in quietly like she didn't want to make noise. Emily? I said. She froze. Oh, hey, she replied, trying to sound normal. Where were you? I asked. Just outside, she said. That answer didn't sit right. Outside where? She hesitated. That was enough for me to know something was off. Emily, I said more gently this time. Talk to me. She looked down. Then finally said, I went to meet her. My chest tightened. Who? The girl, she said, from school. Everything in me went alert. Why? I asked, trying to stay calm. I just wanted it to stop, she said. That sentence, that desperation in it. I felt it. What happened? I asked. She shrugged. Nothing really. Emily, she sighed. I told her to leave me alone, she said. She laughed. My jaw clenched. Did she touch you? Say anything else? No, she said quickly. Just made fun of me. I sat down slowly, processing. You shouldn't have gone alone, I said. I know, she replied quietly, but I didn't want to tell you. There it was again. Why? I asked. She looked at me, and this time, she was honest. Because I didn't want to feel weak. That hit deep. You're not weak, I said. It feels like it, she replied. Silence filled the room. Then I said something I hadn't said before. You know, when you called me that day, she looked up. I felt weak too, I continued. That surprised her. I should have picked up, I said. I knew something wasn't right. I just chose something else. She didn't interrupt. And I hate that, I added. Not because I made a mistake, but because it made you feel like you had to handle things alone. She stayed quiet. But I could see it. She was listening differently now. I don't want you to go through things alone, I said. I wasn't trying to, she replied softly. I know, I said, but that's what it turns into when we don't ask for help. Another silence. Then she asked, what should I have done? That question. It wasn't defensive. It was real. I thought for a second, then said honestly, call me. She looked at me. Even if I'm busy? She asked. I nodded. Especially then. That moment felt important. Not big, but meaningful. Because it wasn't about solving the problem. It was about not facing it alone. The next day, I went to the school again. This time, not just for discussion, for action. We addressed the situation properly. Names were involved. Parents were contacted. Boundaries were set. It wasn't dramatic, but it was necessary. And slowly, things started to change. The messages stopped. The tension reduced. Emily still had tough days, but she wasn't alone in them anymore, and that made all the difference. A few days later, something simple happened. She came home, dropped her bag, and said, today was okay, just okay. But that okay felt like progress. Real progress. Because not every story ends perfectly, but getting better, that's enough. And for the first time, it felt like we were finally moving forward. Things didn't suddenly become perfect after that. There was no big everything is fixed moment, but life started to feel normal again. Emily began going to school regularly, not because she was forced to, but because she felt a little safer, a little stronger. Some days were still hard. I could see it in the way she dropped her bag or how quiet she got at dinner. But now there was a difference, she talked. Not all the time. Not about everything, but enough. And I listened, really listened. Not while checking emails, not while thinking about work, just listened. One evening, I came home a bit late. Not too late, just later than usual. I walked in and saw her sitting on the couch, phone in her hand. Hey, I said. Hey, she replied. Something about her tone felt normal, relaxed. I sat next to her. How was your day? She shrugged. Good. Then after a second, she added, actually, pretty good. I smiled a little. That's new. She smiled back, a small one, but real. We We sat there for a moment. Then my phone buzzed. Work. I glanced at it, then looked at her. That same moment again. That same choice. This time I didn't even think. I put the phone face down. She noticed. Didn't say anything, but I saw it. That quiet understanding. After a few minutes, she said, "Remember that day?" I knew exactly which one. "Yeah," I said. "I was really scared," she added. My chest tightened a little. "I know," I replied softly. "I didn't think you'd call back," she said. That hurt. Even now, I almost didn't, I admitted. She looked at me, surprised. "I thought it wasn't important," I said. "I was wrong." Silence. Then she said something that stayed with me. "But you came." I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "And now you always pick up," she added. That wasn't a compliment. It was trust. And trust like that, you don't get it back easily. "I will," I said. "Every time," she nodded, like she believed it. And that mattered more than anything. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because something was wrong, but because I was thinking about how close I came to missing something important. Not just a call, but a moment, a connection, and how easy it is to lose that without realizing it. The next morning I changed something. Not big, just intentional. I set a rule for myself. If it's her, I answer, no matter what. Meetings can wait, work can wait, but moments like that, they don't come back. Weeks passed, then months. Life moved on, like it always does. But something stayed different. We talked more, laughed more, shared more. And one random afternoon, my phone rang again. "Emily calling?" I picked up instantly. "Hey." Her voice came through light this time. "Hey, just wanted to tell you, I got selected for the presentation." I smiled. "That's amazing." "Yeah," she said. "I was nervous, but I did it. I'm proud of you," I said. A pause. Then she said something simple. "Thanks for always being there." And that's when it really hit me. Not the mistake, not the guilt, but the change. Because being there isn't about one big moment. It's about showing up again and again and again. I still think about that first missed call sometimes. Not to blame myself, but to remind myself. Because the truth is, we all think we have time. We all think later is enough. But sometimes, someone just needs you right now. So yeah, if your phone rings today, and it's someone who matters, pick up. You never know which call is the one that changes everything. Tell me honestly, what would you have done in that moment? Hope you guys enjoy the story. In my opinion, honestly, I don't think he failed as a father. I think he did what most people do. He prioritized what felt urgent over what was actually important. The good part is, he realized it before it was too late. Not everyone gets that second chance.